And you're listening to Hall Monitor on WPPM 106.5. I'm Denise Clay Murray, and we are here with Rue Landau, one of the 29 people that ran for city council at large, and she managed to win one of the 5 slots on the Democratic in the Democratic primary for city council at large this year. And thank you for joining us, Rue. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Now, people, I mean, you are not an unknown quantity to Philadelphians because you've done a lot of work, particularly in the area of civil rights as head of the Human Relations Commission and other things here in the city. What made you decide that you wanted to run for council?
Wow, that's a great question and an easy answer for me. It's that I just wanted to continue doing the work that I've been doing for so many years. I started as a legal services lawyer. I represented low-income tenants for 10 years before I got to my city position, where I ran the Civil Rights Agency and also the Housing Enforcement Agency, the Fair Housing Commission. And it's my life's passion. It's the work that I love doing, but also the work that is so essential to Philadelphia even now. And when you watched all those vacancies happen because everybody stepped down to run for mayor, it was a no-brainer for me. I just wanted a different platform and a different way to continue the work that I'm doing.
Okay, what did you know about how council works before you decided to run? Because a lot of people they see council on television, but they don't necessarily know everything that goes on in city council. So what did you know about council before you decided to run? And do you think that knowledge will be helpful to you should you win?
Yeah, well, I think that's actually might be one of the reasons why I won and I did so well, actually, is because I went around the city and explained to people that I've been working with council for years, back from my legal services days, but absolutely from the time that I was at the Human Relations Commission and the Fair Housing Commission. I've helped to draft bills. I've edited bills. I've worked on them from the moment they were getting introduced till final passage. I've worked with community organizations and helped explain the bills to the community or bring the community's voices to City Hall. I've been that bridge and that coalition builder, and also played a role as running the agencies of bringing together both sides of folks who might not be happy with the bill and folks who wanted everything they could possibly get with the bill. So, a couple examples, fair chance hiring, working on the first ban the box bill, and then the second one where we're helping people with criminal records to get jobs. There was some negotiation that had to happen at the end of that to get that with final passage. I worked on wage equity, where when we got that bill passed, we got sued by many large corporations and entities in the city, and that went up to the Third Circuit before we finally got a positive decision. But I've been doing this for a long time. And so I think explaining that when I went out to all parts of the city, talking to voters, was like, yep, right now is a time where we need people to get into position who are known quantities, folks who've not only kind of done the job or dabbled in it, but two, I don't have as large a learning curve as somebody who's coming out of nowhere.
Now, during the campaign, first of all, we kind of focused more on the mayoral campaign as media outlets than we did council, which, that kind of doesn't make any sense, but that's kind of how it worked out. But we kind of knew what the main issue in the mayor's race was. There was nothing but nonstop talk about crime and gun violence. What do you think is the biggest issue the city faces right now?
Crime and gun violence. I think there wasn't a whole big difference between what we talked about on in the campaign trail, all 29 of us as well. It's, many times most of us got together in a room, and we all had similar issues. And I know that, council's got different powers and responsibilities, but it was really public safety, neighborhood investment, different ways in which people talk about that. Some people call it quality of life issues. I personally call it neighborhood investment or reinvestment from neighborhoods where we've extracted wealth over the years. Let's try to put that back. and affordable housing for me, but I think other people talked about it in terms of making the city affordable for folks. But I would definitely say that crime and gun violence topped it for all of us. And the answer is because that's like kind of the key. They're all connected, and that's the key to everything else, right? In my opinion, we have to reinvest in our schools and our neighborhoods, our rec centers, our libraries. Once we do all of that, crime's going to reduce a little. We have a lot, I'm sorry, because we have studies that come out every couple of years that tell us that just cleaning and greening blocks and neighborhoods could reduce crime up to 30%. But I don't see that we're always doing that. That, again, that will reduce crime. These are all the efforts that we have to do first to see where we really are at, providing opportunities for people. I think we're going to see a pretty quick decrease in crime when we start to reinvest where we disinvested and provide opportunities for our young people.
Okay. Now, when you won your slot on the primary ballot, I mean, for the general, one of the things that folks kind of pointed out to the rest of us was the fact that you will be the first openly gay member of city council should you win. Now, I remember when the Obergefell decision came down and you got your marriage license, and I was one of the reporters that was covering that. And I guess I wanted to ask you, what does that mean to you, and what should that mean to politicians, to members of the LGBTQ community that want to get into politics after you?
Yeah. First, I hope I am the first openly LGBTQ plus person in the city, and not, by all means, not the last. I hope this just opens the door for so many others, because that's what happens when you smash a glass ceiling, I think. I think more than ever right now is the time where we need to have representation on council from our community. We've had so many allies and advisors up through now, folks who've been, and accomplices, folks who've been great with us. You know, we needed a bill introduced. Someone would introduce the bill. We'd explain an issue. Somebody would take the ball and run with it. But as somebody who's been, especially working for city government on the advisory role for so many years, now is the time that we get a seat at the table more than ever before. When you look at what is going on around the country, from Florida to Texas, you know, to even Bucks County, we are in a very serious place of the right wing and the anti-LGBTQ folks, the homophobes, the transphobes, trying to ban books, take away our rights, and really roll back all of the gains that have happened over so many years. And it's super, super dangerous. It's dangerous for our young people. It's dangerous for our elders. It's dangerous for all of us. And making sure that we not only have visibility on council, but have decision-making power and are continually elevating our issues and our concerns is essential right now. But also, by the way, working regionally, making sure that Pennsylvania still stays as safe as it is, but Philadelphia is a super safe place for the LGBTQ plus community. We've had laws that we've passed here long before other areas, certainly in the state, but even in the country, right? We included sexual orientation as a protected category from discrimination in 1982. We included gender identity in 2002. And yes, I was super happy. We got the first marriage license May 20th, 2014 in the state decision, even before the federal decision came down in June. So, we've had some exciting times here in Philadelphia, been a lot of firsts on a lot of things, but we do not want to be a part of rolling any of that back.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to turn you over to my co-host, Larry McGlynn, and you're listening to Hall Monitor on WPPM 106.5.
All right. Thank you, Denise. And before we came on, we were talking about technical issues that have been happening, and I am in the middle of one right now. I cannot, my camera went out, and so I don't know what's going on, but everybody can hear me, so that's good. So thank you so much for being with us. The The first thing I'd like to ask you about, one of the questions we get from our readers and viewers is, what is it like to go through a campaign?
Mm.
So can you tell us a little bit about, maybe starting with making that decision that, yes, I'm going to do that. And then how do you build that campaign apparatus that helps you win that primary?
I love this question because I'll be honest, I've dabbled and helped on campaigns before. I have never been a part of a campaign from start to finish. And it's a lot. And it's, I want to make part of my success helping to map this out for other people. One, I had an incredible campaign manager, Ted Bordelon, who has done this before, especially for state candidates and judicial candidates. So he had a basic framework of what the city council landscape would look like. But to be honest with you, there's almost, you can see it as like buckets and sections as you go along, where, the first start is you have to raise a lot of money to run these races, a lot, especially at large. District council races are fully different, but you raise as much money before December 31st of the year before the primary, and at that point are also obviously introducing yourself to people, making connections, making relationships. But starting in January starts all of the questionnaire. You're trying to get endorsements, right? So you're filling out questionnaires, a lot of questionnaires. Every group has a questionnaire. Every interest area has a questionnaire. Filling out questionnaires, trying to get endorsements, still raising money, starting to really connect with labor unions, having lots and lots and lots of meetings and coffees. And then the endorsements start to come out, hopefully, and you're making connections with electeds. Thankfully, I knew a lot of the elected officials who I wanted to seek their endorsement. Some people come out of nowhere and ask them and say, would you endorse me? And the electeds didn't even know the person. And so all of that is building towards the end, which is also making sure now at this point, you're raising money, you've gotten a whole bunch of endorsements, you've got people behind you, you built your coalition, now you got to get your name out there. So, I forgot the one other part, obviously, right, is getting your name on the ballot. You got to go out and get thousands of signatures in your petitions, and you do all of that in February, and that is done, and that's helping you to connect with people. But the end of it really all is getting out the vote and getting those voters to the polls, getting your name known, getting your face known, getting people out to the polls, and everything you've done up until now is for this moment. And so that is the last piece, is really about, one, you need money for mailings and literature and any of the other ways in which you need groups to know you, and getting people to stand for you outside of the polls, and then just having a network of folks who are going to help you and tell your story. And a lot of this happens on social media now too, right? You get validators, folks who are known in certain communities who start to talk about you and say, yep, everyone wants to know who to vote for. Here are my 5, or here are my 3, or I want to get you to get to know Rue Landau. But it's nonstop action. It is a huge process. And I learned a lot, and I can't wait to pass along all of the tricks to the next people who come along.
What time did the average day start for you and end for you?
That wasn't as bad. I mean, not as, I have a 15-year-old and who has to travel pretty far to get to Central High School. So my days were starting, by 7 a.m. anyway. But when there's a lot of events, especially at night. So yes, there are oftentimes it would be, getting started 7, 8. My team and I would be talking by 9 every morning, no matter what. And I often was coming home 10 and 11 o'clock at night, and it was long days, and it doesn't stop. For people who are thinking about running, I want you to know, it does not stop over the weekends. You no longer have weekends. This is a 7-day-a-week job.
And I guess in a way, it's good preparation for what the council job is going to be like, because that's, kind of the same thing. It's a packed schedule.
It sure is. The interesting thing to me about council, I'm used to working jobs where I work a lot. I'm always between legal services, where I had a caseload, that was, especially back then, there weren't many of us. I had a very high caseload, used to working a lot, coming in on weekends, and then running 2 commissions. Again, I worked a lot. I went to a lot of events. One kind of plus, a plus about council is that there is a structure, and there's a calendar and a schedule. So the more ups and down times, and that predictability will be very nice.
Sure. So, we just got through the primary, and there are no guarantees in anything, but, we can safely assume that come January, you will be on the city council. How do you prepare for that role? What do you do? Or who are you talking to? What kind of steps do you take to say, okay, day one, I want to hit the ground running?
Yeah. Well, as I've explained about kind of my work ethic with all of this, I've already started doing all of that. I'm laying out conversations. I'm trying to learn more about the internal structure of council and process and systems and how that works. But I'm also at the same time having conversations from subject matter experts on issues that are important to me, to see, where are we on whether it's housing or utilities or the environment or small businesses. Where are we on these issues, and where do we need to be? And again, a lot of conversations with subject matter experts. I've already started. I will try to take a little time off in July and August, but expecting that, September on, this is what I want to do. And also talking to groups, not just subject matter experts, but folks who have proven methods that might not have proven methods of, to fight things like our gun violence problems or violence in general, where they maybe haven't been elevated up until now. What have been your barriers for getting in the door? Why has your group not been recognized? How can we help you and elevate you so that we can all do the work that we want to see so badly, right? We all want many of the same. We want Philadelphia to be safer, and we want an economic turnaround. We want every community to thrive. We want all of our schools to be funded. The question is, how do we get it done? And there's credible community people all throughout the city who have great ideas on this. And I want to make sure that I'm an avenue to make sure their ideas are being heard and that they're being heard.
Based on your background, is it safe to assume that housing is going to be a key issue for you coming into council?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, without a doubt. Talking to people all across the city, it's clear as day. I mean, Philadelphia is becoming unaffordable to everybody. This isn't just our lowest income Philadelphians. There are many people who can't afford to stay in their houses, and we need to take this seriously. We don't want to become like a Seattle or many places in California where folks just can't live there. We don't want to have just one set of folks who are housed and everybody else who's scrambling for the rest. We've just got to be ahead of this and make sure that we are making sure housing is affordable. One of the ways in which to do it, it's a supply and demand issue, right? We need more housing to keep prices level for most people. And then we have to support folks who are creating affordable housing. And in my opinion, the city has to invest in the lowest income housing, because that's the hardest to get other folks to wrap around. And, this hopefully with a model that looks something like that, we can be successful in having everybody be able to stay in their neighborhoods.
And it's fundamentally important, because the next question I'm going to ask you, I think, dovetails right into this. Poverty. Philadelphia is the poorest big city in America, while also being one of the wealthiest big cities in America. When we talk about the people who live here, bank deposits, all that kind of stuff, the disparity is unbelievable. And one of the contentions that, from experts we've spoken to that, we have on the show, one of the first steps in fighting poverty is housing. Stable housing helps stable families, and then that, prosperity builds from there.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at poverty, what are, and housing good, if you want to elaborate on that a little more, what are some of the key things that you think from your spot right now that the city should be doing to help alleviate poverty?
I think for me, the three things that are clear as day to fix this problem, one, it's housing, but it's also income, right? And let me just say my third real quick is the schools, without a doubt.
Sure.
Housing is unaffordable for a couple of reasons. One, rents or housing prices, home ownership prices are too high. And then that shows the other problem is people are not making enough money. They're not earning enough. And the question is, and all of this kind of builds into everything of fighting poverty. It's literally just people in general. So let's start with this. People do not make enough money. We need people to earn more, right? I think Josh Shapiro is going to help this a little bit with the minimum wage getting raised up to 15, but the fight for 15 has been going on for so long that doesn't really get people where they need to be. We need really higher paying jobs, but we need opportunities for people to get these jobs. And so then again, this is going to tie into the schools thing. We are not giving all of our students a quality education they need. In order to get to those, then we need the opportunities. We need to get them into those opportunities with the higher wages. And then that automatically, starts to fight our poverty issue. But the housing issue, keeping the roofs over their heads, there's two things. One, yes, we need to increase wages, but two, there's going to be times where we need to subsidize the cost, whether it's renters or continue on with some of our really successful programs of homeownership grants, for example. First-time homeowners, should get a nice, if they're lower income, they should get a nice lump sum in order to help them offset some of the initial costs so we can get more people into homeownership. And then that starts the generational wealth that we're looking for to help pass things along to the next generation. But all of these things are connected and they are huge. But if we don't, I will say this all over again, we don't fix our education system, funding it, making sure every school is a quality school, making sure that our educators are getting everything they need, making sure our families that are being educated are being supported in the ways in which they need. We are not going to educate, we're not going to graduate the students to fill our opportunities that we need to create in order to get everybody up and out of poverty. And the cycles will continue.
So the last thing I'm going to say is actually more of a comment, I think, than a question. But it seems to me that in the years I've been covering council, city council has a good record when it comes to LGBT issues. But I think it means a lot more to have a member of the community on city council, right? It's a very different mindset to have a member on the council, and I think a lot of people have been looking forward to this and hoping for this, and I think it's something that a lot of people can say, hey, this proves even more that Philadelphia is, the greatest city in the country as far as I'm concerned. So I think that's really important. So thank you for being with us here, and I'll turn it back over to Denise Clay-Murray.
And thank you, Larry. And thank you to Rue Landau for joining us today here on Hall Monitor. And we hope to have you back as you continue your move to city council, and also just to find out what you're working on once you get there.
Excellent. I can't wait. And Larry and Denise, thank you for having me. But I also want to say, I too think that Philadelphia is the greatest city in the country. And I strongly believe that with our next mayor and our next city council, that we will be able to tackle all of the problems that are really facing the city. I think many of us want to work collectively to make that happen. And I feel really optimistic about changes coming.
Well, thank